Hello guys, this is your fanfic dojo and we are back with our new fanfic, which is what if Sasuke gave Naruto his Sharingan before his death part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and please subscribe to the channel. It motivates me to upload more fanfic like these for you all. Now let's start the fanfic. At first glance nothing seemed to be amiss in Nami no Kuni. The morning fog was rolling through and everything was peaceful except for the clanging from Tezuna's bridge. However, if someone happened to look underneath it would become obvious that it wasn't an average morning. The fog at sunrise, which usually added a surreal quality to the morning, was thick and oppressive, making it hard to breathe. On top of that, the mist was like being in a whiteout. People taking their morning walks or doing errands found themselves lost and were unable to see beyond their noses, and even though mornings were usually the most peaceful time of the day, it was far too quiet on the coastline. The animals made no sound and the forest was completely still. It seemed all signs of life were gone except for the racket on the bridge, but that was queer as well. Usually the echo of metal striking metal was accompanied by a cacophony of sounds created by the construction crew. No sounds other than the cold ringing of steel was heard, creating a deadly harmony that periodically broke the stillness of that eerie morning. If by some chance you were able to navigate the fog and end up at the bridge, a strange sight awaited. Bodies lay scattered on the bridge, most knocked unconscious with senbon protruding from parts of their bodies, but some met their end by dismemberment or decapitation, making parts of the stone slick with blood. 7 people stood tall on the bridge that morning, and at the epicenter stood 2 men, and the air was at its heaviest around them. The taller one had silver hair that defied gravity and stood straight up, making him seem that much bigger. He was wearing blue pants and a black shirt with orange swirls on the shoulder underneath a thick green vest. A black mask covered his lower face from prying eyes and a headband rested on his forehead adorned with a swirling leaf. His posture appeared relaxed but his muscles were tense as his mismatched red and charcoal eyes stared coldly at the assassin across from him. The man was shorter than his counterpart, but more muscular, and it wasn't for show as he casually rested a massive zanbato across his shoulders. He too had cold eyes, black in color, and his lower face was covered, except instead of a mask he had bandages wrapped around his face, only leaving those bloodthirsty eyes exposed. He had short brown hair that stuck up randomly and his forehead was also covered with a headband, though his was adorned with 4 squiggly lines forming a square with a horizontal slash across the middle of it. The sword-wielding shinobi wore pinstriped gray pants with a leather strap going diagonally across his chest and had gray camouflage sleeves covering his forearm. About 50 feet behind the two there was a young pink-haired girl with emerald green eyes standing in front of a man old enough to be her grandfather with a kunai drawn like she was protecting him from the danger created by the 2 men. As absurd as that was, it still wasn't the most outlandish thing on the bridge on that eerie day. Farther down the bridge from the 4 figures was a dome of mirrors floating in midair while rays of sunlight flitting through the fog and reflecting off the polished surfaces. The tension was as thick as the fog and bloodlust permeated the air, all in all a perfect for the deadly dance taking place. Oh. What the fuck was that? God damn it, that hurts. Never mind. Uzumaki Naruto was in a lot of pain, perhaps the worst of his young life. You couldn't blame him for crying out because it's not every day a senbon needle gets lodged in your left eye, rendering it useless. Knowing now wasn't the time to complain, the blonde covered his eye and dodged the next wave of needles. Suck it up, Dobi, we've got bigger things to worry about right now. Turning his head, Naruto gave his dark-haired teammate an angry glare with his remaining eye. Let me take this needle out of my eye and shove it into yours, Tem. Then you can tell me how you like it. The scoffing black-haired youth tried to dodge the next barrage of needles and block as many as he could, though many still managed to get through his guard and pierced his body, though none hit a vital point. The 2 boys once again ended up back to back after the assault and got a small reprieve from dodging needles. Taking advantage of it, Sasuke whispered to his blonde teammate, "Listen, Naruto, I'm starting to see that guy better as he goes from mirror to mirror. I think he might be slowing down. Naruto gave the boy an incredulous look, slowing down. Are you blind, Sasuke? If anything, he's speeding up. I can't even follow him anymore. Sasuke deadpanned at his partner. Well, I am a better shinobi than you. That's probably why. Deciding now was the perfect time to take advantage of one of life's little pleasures. Sasuke took a moment to enjoy the sound of Naruto's teeth grinding in annoyance, or it might be because you just lost one of your eyes, idiot. Just shut up and distract him. Seeing there was nothing to be gained from arguing with Sasuke, the blonde shrugged and made his trademark seal, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Instantly the dome was filled with a sea of yellow and orange. Their battle cry broke the stillness of the air, and the mob of clones rushed towards the gaps in the mirrors trying to escape the death trap. They were dispelled in seconds, leaving nothing but wisps of smoke before the hunter was once again in all the mirrors surrounding the duo. Such tricks will not work on me. Surrender now and I promise your lives will be spared. Naruto was boiling with rage and it all exploded at the masked nin. I'll never give up and let scum like Gato control this island. You want to kill a good man, crush the hope of these people, and destroy the future of this country. I give you my word that I'll stop you and protect Tazuna's dream and bring Nami no Kuni a brighter future. Just remember that I never go back on my word, it's my nindo. The hunter's voice was hollow, but Naruto could still sense the regret hidden in it. So be it. I gave you a chance to walk away, but now I will harden my heart for my master's dream. Tazuna hired you to protect his dream and I will do anything for Zabuza-sama's. Those two dreams will clash here on this bridge and only one shall continue. That is the true way of shinobi. I take no pleasure in it, but I shall have to end your lives. Having heard enough, Sasuke butted in. Stop chatting with the enemy and get to work, Dobi. Naruto paid no attention to the insult and called forth even more Kage Bunshin and sent them forward only for them to be dispelled like the last batch. The blonde didn't give in and kept spamming clones, and the masked boy continued decimating them with his Senbon until he saw a fireball coming right for him. Abandoning his attack, the masked boy tried to dodge, but when he appeared in the mirrors once more, the bottom of his robe was charred. The teen narrowed his eyes behind his mask as he took in the two trapped in his technique. The black-haired one was by far the most dangerous and was the one who needed to be taken care of first. The shinobi stared at the two as they talked and formulated a plan. Naruto turned to congratulate Sasuke when he gasped in surprise, Tem, what's with your eyes? They went all weird and now they look like Kaka-sensei's. Sasuke stared at his friend in confusion before a cocky smirk formed on his face. HMPH, I just unlocked the Sharingan, now this battle is over. Naruto felt his hope returning and with it came energy. Good, you better get him this time, bastard, unless those eyes aren't all they're cracked up to be. Turning away from Sasuke, before he could take in what had to be a priceless expression, Naruto called forth a veritable army of clones, but they were taken out in an instant, leaving behind a thick cloud of smoke. Usually the boy would retreat to his mirrors after, but this time a wave of Senbon burst through the smoke coming straight at Naruto. Knowing there was no way he could react in time, the boy closed his eyes and waited for the end. The sound of metal piercing flesh reached the blonde's ears and he felt the warm splatter of blood on his skin, but the pain he expected to follow never came, and the genin opened his eyes and gasped, Sasuke, why? What did you do? Standing in front of the blonde was Sasuke, looking like a human porcupine. It seemed like Senbon covered every inch of his torso and stuck out in every direction. The last loyal Uchiha turned his head to look at Naruto. I don't know, I used to hate you, but I saw what was happening and my body moved on its own. Just don't die, Naruto, not before you reach your dream. Sasuke collapsed to his knees, then fell face first, pushing the needles deeper into his body, but he did not feel or care because he was in a dreamless sleep. Naruto stood and looked at the body of his comrade and trembled violently. For the first time in his life he didn't know what to do or say. His rival, his begrudging friend, The only person he knew that could understand the pain of loneliness was killed in front of his eyes, and all he could do was watch a lifeless corpse fall to the concrete. Part of him wanted to cry, part of him wanted to scream, and part of him wanted to rip the other boy to shreds. Unbeknownst to him, that small part of him was being fed by the foul chakra sealed inside him. The genin kept shaking and started to embrace his growing rage and hatred as red chakra exploded out from his body, and the blonde felt a rush of euphoria while the others on the bridge were almost overcome by an animalistic bloodlust. The needles were pushed from his body and his wounds healed as Naruto rose to his feet with a maelstrom of red chakra surrounding him. The blonde looked at his clawed hands with terrible red eyes and gave a menacing smile accentuated by his darkening whisker marks and growing canines. Naruto couldn't explain it, but he's never felt better. He was faster and stronger than before. It felt like he could fight Kakashi and Zabuza at the same time and win easily. He was invincible, the avatar of a god. His vision began to bleed red until it was all he could see. Naruto felt incredible. He was done playing with his prey and was about to finish the job. Grabbing the fool's sleeve, he delivered a jaw-shattering punch that sent him flying, and as the boy pushed himself to his feet, the mask began to fall to pieces. Naruto began to advance with a smile. Now he could see the despair on the wretch's face as he ends his miserable existence. Maybe he should kill his precious master in front of him to cause him more pain first. Why stop there? After he finished those two, why not go after the silver-haired one? Deciding not to count his chickens, the fox-like boy turned his attention back to his enemy's exposed face, intent on savoring his fear and despair. Wait, why does it look so familiar? I can't remember, but it seems important. A part of his mind told him that it wasn't, so he shrugged and started his slow advance to the stumbling boy. But as he got closer, something started to penetrate the red haze that clouded his mind until a name formed and the haze vanished: Haku. As the mist cleared, Naruto looked up towards the shining sun and smiled. Somehow it all managed to work out for his team. Gato was dead and his goons scattered, leaving Tazuna to build the bridge without fearing for his life. The icing on the cake was Sakura proclaiming Sasuke was still breathing. Naruto gave Haku's prone form a small smile. You couldn't harden your heart after all, Haku. Putting on a foxy grin, Naruto began to walk over to his team, only for his mood to drop as he got closer and saw the look in his teacher's visible eye. After 2 months on Team 7, Naruto was confident in his ability to read their sensei based on his eye, and the lack of a celebratory eye smile created a feeling of dread formed in the genin's stomach. There was no proud glint or mysterious twinkle in Kakashi's teasing his students with hidden knowledge. No, Kakashi's eye was a hard black, and his brow knitted with concern as he watched Sakura cradle Sasuke's body. He reached into his vest and pulled out a scroll before unrolling it. The Junin slid his thumb over the horizontal cut across his chest and wiped it down the length of the paper, creating a puff of smoke. When it cleared, a small bird was perched on Kakashi's shoulder with a blank scroll tied to its leg. The silver-haired man undid the knot and unrolled the tiny scroll and wrote a short message in one of Anbu's many codes before sealing it once more. He retied it to the bird's leg and sent it flying towards Konoha. Once the bird was no longer visible, Kakashi turned around and let out a long sigh. Sasuke is in a near-death state like Zabuza after our first fight. The copy nin hesitated and looked like he was thinking on what to say, and Naruto got the feeling he didn't want to hear it. None of Sasuke's vital points were hit, but when he collapsed, the Senbon were pushed deeper into his body and some pierced his stomach and intestines. If it doesn't get treated quickly, Sasuke will get an infection and most likely die. Sakura stared at her sensei in disbelief. Then we're going back to Konoha, right, sensei? Kakashi could only let out another sigh. Unfortunately, that would only make things worse. Sakura. Moving him too much will cause more fluids to leak out and worsen his condition, which is why I sent that message to Konoha requesting medics to come to our location. Now let's make a stretcher and carefully move Sasuke's back to Tazuna's. Naruto looked over his shoulder at the bodies of Zabuza and Haku as they lay next to one another. Sensei, after we make the stretcher, can I send some shadow clones back with you? I want to bury Zabuza and Haku. His sensei managed a small smile. Sure, Naruto, but first get some sturdy branches. I have some rope and canvas, so when you get back we'll make that stretcher. After Naruto returned from his impromptu burial, Kakashi set out claiming he had some loose ends to tie up. He returned a couple hours later and Team 7 started playing the waiting game. Kakashi assured his two conscious students that it wouldn't take more than 2 days for Shinobi to arrive from Konohagakure, but it was the third day and the sun was getting lower in the sky and everybody was worrying about Sasuke. Naruto tried to train but his heart wasn't in it and he was just going through the motions. What would motivate him if Sasuke? He was waiting for the day that the Uchiha would acknowledge him as an equal, but he was worrying that it might never come. Eventually he stopped his half-hearted attempts at training and was now trying to distract himself by playing solitaire at the dining room table. Kakashi took one of the chairs from the table and sat in the corner of the room with his nose buried in the infamous orange book. However, if someone paid close enough attention to the Junin, they would see that he hadn't turned a page in almost a half hour. Sakura was taking it the worst though. She didn't eat at all the first day and only ate the second because her blonde teammate threatened to force-feed her using his own mouth. She also barely slept, and even Naruto, who harbored a huge crush on her, would be hard-pressed to say she looked good. The only time she spent away from Sasuke was when it was her turn to guard the house in case any bandits came looking for revenge. A knock on the door broke everyone out of their melancholy, and before Naruto could even respond, Sakura was at the door with a hopeful look on her tired face. The portal opened and behind it were two men wearing the standard yellow medical nin suit. One had blue hair and green eyes and the other had silver hair with glasses. Naruto arrived just in time to hear Kakashi say, "You're late, Yakushi-san." The silver-haired medic stopped fiddling with his pouch and looked up into Kakashi's lone eye. I never thought I'd hear that from the legendary Kakashi. Seeing his attempt at levity wasn't appreciated, he coughed into his hand. Right, well, all the scheduled boats didn't show up at port, so we had to make our own and row until we reached the bridge. But we're here now, so please show us to the patient. Kakashi turned to face his female student. Please show them to Sasuke's room, Sakura. The pinkett nodded her head and quickly led the two healers to her injured teammate before coming back downstairs to join the rest of her team, and they waited in silence for any news. Kakashi abruptly awoke when he heard footsteps coming down the stairs and looked to see Naruto and Sakura asleep on the couch cheek to cheek. He glanced outside to see the moon was out and the stars were shining bright before he looked back to the stairway to see the silver-haired medic coming down the stairs. Kakashi woke his students up while scrutinizing the man's face, trying to find out what happened, but all he got was a wave indicating they should follow and a blank face. If there was one thing medics were good at, it was poker, well, except Tsunade. Knowing there was nothing left to do but go upstairs and find out what happened, Kakashi led his students up the stairs. They arrived in Sasuke's room to see that he was still asleep, as well as the blue-haired medic, which was worrying to the Junin. He didn't think the procedure would be that difficult and extensive. Looking towards the silver-haired nin, Kakashi bit the bullet. Well, doc. The eldest Yakushi sighed and faced the gloomy team. If Tsunade-sama's policy of a medic nin per team was implemented, a tragedy could have been averted. Even if we arrived early yesterday, the chances of his survival would have been slim. There was too much stomach acid leaking out. We used all our chakra and ate as many soldier pills as we could without damaging our networks, but the infection would barely respond and it is too late for antibiotics. His organs are slowly failing and his body is shutting down. We put him under for the procedure, and we'll put him to sleep after you talk to him to make it as comfortable as possible. In my estimate, he won't make it past noon tomorrow. He bent down and woke up his partner and handed Kakashi a syringe. He should be waking up any minute, so when you're done talking, inject this into one of his veins and he'll go to sleep. I'm sorry. The two closed the door behind them and waited downstairs for Team 7. As their footsteps faded, Kakashi looked at his two students. Naruto was staring at the floorboards, making it impossible to see his reaction, but Kakashi was an expert at reading body language and he could tell the blonde was in the process of blaming himself. After all, he did the same thing when Obito died. Sakura, however, made no move to hide her tears and she let the salty streams cascade down her face and drop to the floor. Yes, it was Sakura he was most worried about. Everything he saw up to this point indicated she was in the program for Sasuke and this might break her for good. It was then Kakashi realized that his students needed to learn the hard lessons now, to get their fairytale view of the world broken and leave their innocence behind if there was any left after this. This is the life of a shinobi. Every time we go on a mission you put your lives on the line. We are tools used to complete missions for the good of the village. I wish I could say this will be the last time you will lose a friend or teammate, but I won't lie. I have had to bury many of my friends and family members over the years and it never gets easier. That is why shinobi must not show emotions. Sakura seemed to take it well enough, or she couldn't get any more upset than she was now, but Kakashi could feel Naruto's anger rising. That's bullshit, sensei. Shinobi aren't tools. We're human beings and people might look at us like that, but it doesn't make us what they think we are. I'll never embrace that. Maybe more of my friends will die, but it won't be because they were disposable. If that's the way the shinobi world is, then I'll change it. Kakashi was proud of Naruto's resolve and could only smile at his blonde student until he heard a weak groan. Shut up, Dobi. Sasuke didn't know what to say when he looked up at the other members of Team 7. He wasn't very good expressing himself before the massacre and it only got worse after, and the painkillers weren't exactly helping his cause. Ever since the person he loved most in the world took everything away from him, Sasuke rejected the world at large and put all his effort and emotion into destroying that man, but these last 2 months were different. He found himself smiling and having fun for the first time since before the massacre. Sasuke woke up looking forward to the team meetings. Even though Kakashi would be late, Naruto would be Naruto, and Sakura would constantly pester him, and he didn't really mind it anymore even if he pretended to be annoyed. 3 of the strangest people he knew wormed their way into his icy heart and became his new family, but he was going to lose this one too. The tear-streaked face of his fellow genin and the solemn face on his sensei made Sasuke uncomfortable and he blurted out the first thing that came to mind, I know I'm dying. Sakura cried harder when he said that, and drops of blood pooled at Naruto's feet as they fell from his hands. Damn painkillers. I know that I won't make it past tomorrow, but I don't regret doing what I did. I wanted to protect all of you. If I didn't, I would be no different than him. The raven-haired genuine paused for several moments to regain his composure before continuing. I'm just glad that I can see you all before I go and say goodbye. I know that I'm not the nicest guy around and I can be very arrogant and inconsiderate. The raven-haired teen smirked at Naruto's snort, but he did not let it bait him. I've been alone for so long and kept the world at arm's length after my brother killed my family, but I couldn't keep you guys out no matter how hard I tried. You became important people to me. Kakashi-sensei, you tried to teach me important lessons as a ninja and a person, and even though I just ignored you, I still learned something. Thank you for guiding me forward despite me pushing backwards the whole time. Sasuke looked at his pink-haired teammate solemnly and she managed to fight back the tears before he addressed her. Sakura, you're annoying, but in a good way, like my younger cousins used to be. I just wanted to protect you. I'm sorry I couldn't care for you the way you did me, but you were still one of the most precious people in my life. The pinkette could no longer contain her tears and fell to her knees before clutching onto her dying teammate's sheets. The Uchiha tried to pat her back comfortingly, but it made the sobs harder, so he looked towards the blonde. Dobi, Naruto, you were my rival, but more importantly, you were my best friend. Sasuke paused and looked at the usually cheerful genin with tears pouring down the whisker marks on his cheeks. No, you were more than that. You were a brother to me, my real brother. You understood the pain of loneliness too, and even though we never talked when we were younger, I would feel better when I looked at you because I knew there was somebody else like me. You helped pull me from the darkness that was engulfing my heart and helped me see. Because of that, I want you to take my left Sharingan and use it to replace your eye so I can help you see too. Sasuke weakly raised a hand to stall any of Naruto's protests. He knew the blonde would attempt to reject his offer and resolved to change his mind. The Sharingan needed somebody to write a legacy that erased the evils committed by Itachi. I already talked to the medics and they agreed to perform the procedure when you return to Konoha, so don't say you can't accept it. You were my brother Naruto, and I've got to protect you somehow. Please take my eye and use it to achieve your dream for both of us because I can no longer achieve mine. Become a great Hokage Naruto, open your eyes and find the path you need to walk, and since I always had better vision, I think my eye will help. Sasuke saw the tears and snot running down Naruto's face as he lifted it to look at the bedridden shinobi. Thank you Sasuke. I'll take your gift and when I become Hokage I'll make sure the Uchiha clan is never forgotten and their names said with honor. Naruto looked at his brother in all but blood. It's not fair Sasuke, you're helping me reach my dream and I'm doing nothing to help you. What's your dream Sasuke? I promise to you that I'll try to achieve it in your stead. The dying Uchiha closed his eyes and gave Naruto a small smile. He figured his dream would die with him and he thought he was okay with it. The raven-haired genin convinced himself that he did not want to burden his teammate with that path, but hearing Naruto request it dashed those thoughts and made the Avenger finally feel at peace. 4 years ago my entire clan was killed in one night by a single man. He was my brother, Uchiha Itachi. I vowed that I would avenge the Uchiha clan and restore it to honor. But be warned Naruto, he is incredibly strong. The Uzumaki's eyes hardened and he thumped his chest with his fist. Sasuke, I am giving you the promise of my lifetime. I will find and kill Uchiha Itachi and restore your clan's honor, or die trying. The youngest surviving Uchiha wouldn't admit this for the rest of his short life or to anyone in the afterlife, but he was in awe of Naruto at that moment. The usually goofy blonde's lone blue eye was steel and his voice hard and full of conviction. Sasuke had confidence that he would somehow be able to defeat that murderer. He was looking for the words to express himself but Naruto decided to continue. Sasuke, you were the person I admired and respected most. I wanted for you to acknowledge me as an equal. You were the reason I pushed myself so hard since becoming a genin. I'll never forget you and always uphold your honor. I swear my descendants will always remember you and your sacrifice. Sasuke's eyelids were drooping and he felt his consciousness slipping away, but he managed to smile and say one last thing before darkness overtook his vision for the final time. You sure are Adobe Naruto, I acknowledged you a long time ago. Kakashi gave Sasuke the drug to ensure he would not wake up in pain before gently grabbing his student's shoulders to lead them out of Sasuke's room. Once they were outside he freed up his hands so he could try to enjoy his copy of Ika Ika, signed by Jiraiya-sama himself. Raising the book up to his face Kakashi got ready to address his remaining 2 students. Is this how you felt when Obito died Minato-sensei? Get some rest you two because we'll be returning to Konoha tomorrow after lunch. The mission was bumped up to A rank, but I was talking with Tazuna and he thinks you guys deserve more so on top of the pay you will receive from the village, you shall also receive pay for 2 solo S-class missions. His most adorable and intelligent little genin interrupted him, but sensei, how will they pay? Tazuna said the entire village could barely afford a C-rank mission when we started. Kakashi I smiled for the benefit of his students. Ah, that was over a week ago Sakura-chan. Relying on outdated information can be fatal to a shinobi. After the ordeal on the bridge I sent some of my nin dogs to follow the trail Gato and his thugs left behind, and I went to his mansion and cleaned it out before they could. All the money and other liquid funds were given to the people of Nami, minus the pay in your hands. I also managed to gain the codes for his illegitimate bank accounts and sent those back to the village, and most important of all, I managed to find a large amount of information on Gato's more illicit business, some in Hai no Kuni. Now go to bed because we have a lot of running to do tomorrow. I'll teach you how to use the tree climbing method to hop through trees easier. Naruto and Sakura trudged to their room as Kakashi put his spare hand into his pouch to fiddle with the bell he used on the day Team 7 became his responsibility, and while he walked to his own room, Obito's eyes shed tears for his fallen family from behind the Hittite 8. Team 7 stood at the bridge and waved farewell to the people of Nami no Kuni as they cheered in gratitude, but their smiles didn't reach their eyes and were for the benefit of the people as they were hurting on the inside because of Sasuke's death. The medics came to them before they left saying the operation was a success and Naruto could receive the eye as soon as he came back to the village. Inari burst through the crowd with tears streaming down his face. Make sure you come back and visit when I'm bigger. I want to hear all about your adventures, Naruto Nichan. Naruto looked at the young boy with watery eyes of his own. I will, as long as you grow up into someone that protects his precious people instead of a whiny brat. Naruto didn't wait for Inari's answer and turned around to catch up with the retreating forms of his teammates. Naruto felt bad, but he was lying to Inari because none of the members of Team 7 would return to this tragic place. Kakashi hated this feeling, and it seemed he experienced it all too often. Losing a comrade, even one that not well known, was a terrible thing to experience. The pain of losing a treasured student was only magnified by the guilt of failing as a sensei, and to top it all off, he let the last of Obito's kin die despite receiving his friend's Sharingan to protect his comrades. Kakashi looked back at his students with a regretful eye, focusing on the sullen face of Naruto, and the scarecrow made a silent vow right then to protect the legacy of his sensei and prepare him for the challenges ahead. The copy ninja would protect and prepare his students with all his formidable power. The enormous gates of Konoha came into view and Kakashi looked at his students for what seemed like the millionth time. Naruto had the same look on his face that he had for the whole trip. His head was slightly bowed and his lips were pushed together into a thin line. It was strange to see someone so bright and cheerful acting so withdrawn and pensive. Sakura looked like her world was crushed. Her shoulders were slumped like the world collapsed onto her back and she had to carry it, and though she sniffled occasionally, the girl didn't shed a tear the whole way back, and in some strange twisted way Kakashi was proud of her. They traveled in uncomfortable silence, and as the massive gates came closer, Kakashi stalled to prolong their trip. Entering the gates would make it all too real for his students, and that was something he learned from personal experience. Slowly the downtrodden team entered the gates, one man short. Team 7 entered the bright village of Konoha grieving for their fallen brother. It was a spacious office. Fine oak walls, made from some of the finest trees grown by the Shodaime, were adorned with 3 pictures. 2 were of his sensei and predecessors, and 1 was of his short-lived successor. There used to be a picture of a younger Sarutobi up there too, but he had it taken down shortly after retaking the office. Looking at that picture made the Hokage feel his age. He almost removed the picture of the Yondaime as well because looking at it made the Sandaime wish he sacrificed himself for the ceiling. Minato was one of the most talented shinobi that he had the privilege of seeing. His will of fire was slowly stoked into an inferno, and like too many great men it was snuffed out before its time. The man hadn't reached his peak, but his name was already whispered in the same sentence as legends like Hashirama and Madara, 2 of the strongest shinobi to ever exist. The noble man sacrificed his life and his son's future to save the village from the Kyuubi's wrath, and gazing upon the very boy that helped his father save the village, the Sandaime Hokage felt the burden of his lofty position, though he could never show it. Puffing on his pipe, Sarutobi Hiruzen allowed himself a moment of weakness and yearned to pass the title to another before crushing that thought as he exhaled smoke and took in the remnants of Team 7, another tragedy that should have been avoided. Kakashi, please explain your reason for continuing the mission after discovering the client lied about the difficulty. The legendary Junin flinched at his leader's sharp gaze before answering. Tazuna was a good man trying to save an entire country from a bleak future, Hokage-sama. Wasn't it your own sensei who said, to abandon your duty is not courageous and below courage there is nothing? Hiruzen acknowledged the point with a nod. I would expect no less from a student of the Yondaime Hokage, but it seems you forgot your real duty, Kakashi. You had Green Genin who had never seen real combat before. The purpose of C-rank missions is to gradually introduce live combat to Genin starting at the level of common thieves. It was not responsible to baptize them in blood. The real duty you should have been paying attention to was your duty as a sensei, to guide and protect the students. The Sandaime felt like he was kicking a depressed puppy, though he knew that Kakashi needed to hear it. The Junin appeared to deflate at the rebuke, but it seemed like the man gathered himself quickly. I knew that a Junin would be coming after the first failed attempt, but I'm confident in my ability to protect my students. They are strong and their teamwork was solid. It was Naruto and Sasuke's combined effort that allowed me to defeat Zabuza the first time. Also, Sasuke did not die in combat, but I do not blame the medics. After Gato's death, his shipping company fell apart and no boats left or entered Nami no Kuni, so they were delayed and had to build a raft. He was another victim of circumstance. Puffing on his pipe once more, Sandaime took another good look at Team 7. Naruto was a fighter to his core. It may take time, but the boy would bounce back eventually. He had been doing it all his life. Sarutobi would smoke poison ivy if this did not drive the boy to get stronger. Sakura was trying her best to suppress her emotions like the shinobi code commanded, but he was the legendary professor, the Hokage of Konohagakure. No Genin was able to conceal their emotions from his piercing gaze, not even young Naruto, though the boy still thought he could. Hiruzen could see the sadness rolling off her slender frame and it made his heart ache. No child should have to feel pain like that. After contemplating his options, the Sandaime decided, Team 7 will have 2 weeks of paid leave, and then another 2 of rehabilitation duty, which will consist of a smaller pension supplemented by D-ranked missions performed by the 3-man squad. During the month I will look for a suitable replacement to add to your squad. Dismissed. Sakura was never more relieved to leave the Hokage's office. She felt the grief rising even as she followed her sensei, and the Pinkett tried to crush it, reminding herself for the 100th time in the last 10 minutes that shinobi have no emotions. No matter how hard she tried, the hidden feelings were simmering in her chest and Sakura didn't know how much longer she could contain it. Her sensei called for a stop and Sakura complied, trying to forget anything about Uchiha Sasuke for just 1 second. Their sensei put away his dirty orange book and faced his 2 students. Sasuke's funeral is in 1 week, so I'll give you guys the week off. You may train on your own or seek me out for advice if you want, but the day after the funeral I want you both to meet me at Training Ground 5 at 9 a.m. Dismissed. Hearing about Sasuke's funeral was too much and Sakura left hurriedly when he was finished talking. The slow simmering turned into a full-blown boil and Sakura couldn't keep her sadness contained. She needed to get home now. The Pinkett took off running, and as she turned a corner she ran right into her sensei, though he didn't seem too fazed by it. He flipped his book closed and kneeled down so he was eye level with the girl and put a comforting hand on her shoulder. I remember the first day we met, Sakura. You didn't voice your dream, but from the way you looked at Sasuke it became quite apparent what it was. I know that you had a crush on him, and that's fine. I'm glad you have enough normality in your life to have a crush. However, if the sole reason you became a shinobi was to get close to Sasuke, then you should withdraw from the program. Sakura looked anywhere but her sensei's charcoal eye as tears leaked out of her jade ones. You have a lot of potential, Sakura, but you need to train and put effort in to bring it out and become the exceptional kunoichi I know you can be. The ninja world is not a fairy tale and I don't want to see you get hurt or killed because you didn't take your training seriously. I'm not trying to discourage you and make you quit Sakura. I want to make sure you don't get hurt. I don't think I could lose another student. I know you can become great and I want to help you get there. Why don't you take this week to decide on the path you want to take and I will support you and do anything in my power to help you, no matter what your choice is. The tears were streaming down Sakura's face and she was trying to control her sobs that threatened to escape and managed to gather a breath. Yes, sensei, I'll see you later. Not waiting for a reply, Sakura rushed towards her house. Sakura sighed in relief once the door closed. The Pinkett couldn't remember the last time she was this happy to be home and just looked around her house trying to soak up the warm atmosphere. The red carpet was threadbare, her maroon couch was torn and tattered in places, the table was dinged and dented, and their chair was permanently stuck in the reclined position. In some areas on the wall the paint was peeling and the floor was scratched beyond repair. But her and her mother lived here together, so despite the worn and shabby look, the house gave off a warm and comforting vibe to the distraught girl. Her mother must have been working because she would have glomped Sakura as soon as she walked in the door, even if she was asleep in her room. The woman may have only been a civilian, but when it came to her daughter she was deadlier than most shinobi. The teen went to the kitchen and opened the refrigerator looking for a snack, but to her disappointment the selection was sparse. The milk expired yesterday and there was very little food. Finding a small bowl of rice and chicken in the back of the fridge, Sakura warmed it up and devoured the food despite it being dry and plain. She finished the small meal and put her dishes in the sink before remembering why she ran home and retreated to her bedroom, not bothering to hide her tears now that there was no audience. And once Sakura closed the door behind her, she threw herself on the bed and cried herself to sleep. When Sakura awoke, the moon was high in the sky and the stars were twinkling brightly. The kunoichi's eyes were puffy and swollen, making it hard to see, and her throat was dry and scratchy, so the girl went to the bathroom to freshen up. Once she could see, Sakura went downstairs to get something to quench her thirst. The Pinkett filled her glass with water and was surprised to see her mom sprawled on the couch snoring softly. Walking over to the sleeping woman, Sakura looked down and wiped a stray bang from her mother's forehead, that was eerily similar to her own, and took in her bedraggled appearance. Stress lines creased her forehead and small bags were under her eyes, giving her a raccoon-like appearance. The woman's dress was wrinkled and her ankles were slightly swollen, indicating she was standing most of the day. Her pink hair was greasy and stringy with split ends everywhere, and if Sakura could see her mother's blue eyes, she was sure they would have none of the spark that was usually there. Overall, Haruno Tomo looked like crap, even though she could put a majority of the women in the Leaf Village to shame most of the time despite working 15 hours a day. It wasn't the first and certainly wouldn't be the last time Sakura felt guilty for her mother's hard life. She was a beautiful woman of 28 years old, in the prime of her life. Tomo refused to get an abortion like the rest of her family wanted, and Tomo was disowned by her clan and forced to support a child without finishing school. Now, instead of hanging out with her friends and meeting handsome rich men, she worked 6 days a week at 2 different jobs. Sakura remembered the days in her childhood when she would constantly demand new clothes to stay in fashion, the newest CDs from the boy bands who dominated her thoughts, and money to hang out with her friends like a selfish child. Haruno Tomo would never refuse her daughter if she could help it, even though she wouldn't have any money to spend on herself after paying the bills and buying groceries. The Pinkett remembered how her mother would eat less so Sakura could have more. It was what inspired her to diet before it became a fad in the academy. Feeling even worse about herself, Sakura retreated to the comfort of the room, feeling like a burden to everyone around her, and eventually her mind replayed her earlier conversation with Kakashi. Kaka-sensei was right, I didn't take my training seriously. I just wanted Sasuke to rescue me, fall for my charms, and then marry me so we could live happily ever after with Naruto as our manservant. Instead, I was just deadweight and let my team down. If I tried, maybe I could have helped Naruto and Sasuke, maybe Sasuke would be alive. Sakura broke off of the depressing what-if thoughts, remembering how Iruka used to say that some shinobi drove themselves crazy thinking what-ifs and maybes. Did she really join the academy just to pursue Sasuke? Was she really that selfish and foolish? Why did I want to become a ninja? Why did I like Sasuke? The questions continued to swirl in Sakura's head as she drifted off to sleep. Flashback. It was a cold November day and a young Sakura shivered and huddled closer to her mother. Even though it rarely snowed in Hai no Kuni, the winter months chilled people to the bones. Haruno Tomo was wearing an old green cotton sweater with patches that looked newer than others while her long pink hair cascaded down her back in a ponytail. Sakura loved her mother greatly and was incredibly happy that she had her mother's pink hair. She had never seen another person with pink hair, not even her family that she only saw in photos. It was something special that linked mother and daughter. Tomo let go of young Sakura's hand to look at something in a stand. Looking around, Sakura saw a small red ball sitting abandoned near a trash can. The girl ran excitedly to the ball, hoping she could keep it and add it to her meager toy collection. Her mom couldn't even say no because she found it. The girl picked up the ball and turned around, but she did not see her mother. The girl's sharp eyes began scanning the crowd, and after seeing a flash of pink, the small child darted through the crowd. Sakura was so focused on her mother's hair that she didn't even notice the tree trunk-like legs in her waist as she plowed right into them and fell onto her butt. Looking up, she saw a tall man with black hair and brown eyes wearing a blue headband with a plate on it. He looked down at Sakura and his eyes softened. "Are you alright, little girl?" Sakura glanced up at the giant while wondering what to do. He seemed nice enough, but her mother always said not to talk to strangers. He laughed when she looked around shyly and Sakura caught a glimpse of what was in his hand. He had a large roll of ryu tucked in his fingers and it was more money than Sakura has ever seen. It had to be like a bajillion ryu, maybe more. Suddenly Tomo's musical voice reached Sakura's ears. "Sakura-chan, you made me worried sick. How many times have I told you not to do that?" Not waiting for a response to her rhetorical question, she bowed to the giant. "Thank you, Shinobi-san." Sakura gasped. So that was a ninja. Sakura had heard about the legendary warriors that protected their village. They could walk up walls, breathe fire, disappear, and do all sorts of super cool things. Sakura looked down at her red ball and back at the shinobi's hand stuffed with money, and something in her mind clicked. If she became a ninja, she could make tons of money and buy all the toys she wanted and buy toys for her mom too, even though she'd have to get Sakura's permission first. The scene faded and the younger Sakura was in the park with Ino enjoying a nice day when their friendship was still strong. No, Sakura, if you twist them like that they'll come loose. Sakura laughed when Ino grabbed the daisy chain and showed her the proper way once more while scolding her. Honestly, Sakura, you're super smart and remember everything, but can't do something simple like this. The pinkett stuck out her tongue and pulled down the skin under her eye. Even you say I'm smart, so it must be your bad teaching. Ino gave Sakura a furious look before a devious smirk formed on her face and she tackled her friend to the ground and began viciously tickling her sides, starting an epic tickle fight. Eventually they both gave up when they lost their breath and flopped into the soft grass looking up at the clouds like a Nara. Hey Ino, do you think I could sleep over tonight? Ino, are you even listening to me? Sakura sat up when she heard a wistful moan and saw Ino was already sitting and looking dreamily at a black-haired boy around their age wearing a navy blue shirt and white shorts. Who are you looking at, Ino? The blonde managed to break off her stare to give Sakura the "air you stupid" look. That's Uchiha Sasuke. He's the youngest son of the Uchiha clan head, and the cutest boy in the village. People also say he's a genius and will be the strongest ninja from our generation. He's pretty much the prince of Konoha, and when I marry him I'll be the princess. Ino gave another sigh and her eyes glazed over as she went back into her dreamland, leaving Sakura to ponder. If Sasuke was in a famous clan and the prince of Konoha and she was his girlfriend, the princess of Konoha, she can take care of mom. Sakura vowed to make Sasuke hers and hoped Ino wouldn't be too mad at her after. Dream sequence end. Sakura once again woke with a start, except this time the sun was shining and when she looked at the clock it read 11 a.m. The Pinkett groaned and shoved her head under her pillow as her weird dreams came back to her, and it looks like she was a gold digger. She was chasing after the dreamboat of Konoha for his money, although somewhere along the way she lost sight of that and just pursued Sasuke because Sakura really couldn't think of a reason, probably because she wanted to fit in and every girl was doing it at that point. The Pinkett pushed those thoughts aside and decided it was time to stop dwelling on the past, start living in the present, and look towards the future. She was hit by a strange urge and grabbed an elastic before putting her hair in a ponytail with the band at the nape of her neck and taking out one of her rarely used kunai. Sakura sliced it off just above the elastic and held her locks of hair proudly in front of her as she stared hard at her reflection in the mirror, ready to change it. I promise on my hair that I'll turn over a new leaf and become a proud kunoichi so I can give my mom a better life like she deserves. As the small rush of adrenaline died down, Sakura couldn't help but laugh. Ha, I sounded like Naruto there. Sakura threw her hair in the trash and stared at herself with confidence. She found her resolve. Naruto shivered as he walked towards the hospital in the early morning and a cold breeze blew through the streets. The sun was just peeking over the Hokage monument and it lit the village with a beautiful orange glow, giving the city a surreal appearance. Today was the day he would receive Sasuke's eye in place of his blind one. Kakashi wished him luck the night before and said he would visit after surgery and tell Sakura he would be going under today. The blonde walked into the hospital with a purpose and approached the receptionist's desk and waited for her to finish sorting the patient's medication. She was a mousy-looking woman with brown hair pulled back into a bun and dull brown eyes, wearing the standard nurse's uniform. Finishing her task, she looked up and blinked owlishly at Naruto. Can I help you? Yes, I have an appointment to see Yakushi-sensei. The woman nodded and began typing and looking at the computer screen and without looking up said, Name please. Naruto sat there with a gaping mouth, surprised someone in Konoha didn't know who he was on site and found he actually liked the anonymity. Naruto gave the woman one of his best foxy grins and lit up the dim room. The name's Uzumaki Naruto Ne-chan. The nurse smiled at his enthusiasm. Well, Naruto-kun, it appears you have an appointment for 6:45. Go to the elevator and get off at the 7th floor and walk straight out. The waiting room is the last door on the left. Naruto's grin never faded and he bounded towards the elevator while shouting over his shoulder, Thanks Ne-chan. The woman could only stare incredulously at the spot where Naruto just stood and let out a giggle many men would find cute despite her plain appearance. What an adorable kid, so full of energy. Naruto rode the elevator to the 7th floor and headed towards the waiting room before dropping into a chair and losing himself in thought, definitely not brooding. Here we go, Sasuke. I hope you're watching over me up there so nothing goes wrong. I wonder what the villagers will say when they find out the demon has the Sharingan. Shit, when everybody finds out Sasuke died on our mission they'll just blame me. I'm gonna have to work twice as hard now. Naruto was so deep in thought he never noticed when a pretty redheaded nurse opened the door and tapped him on the shoulder, causing him to jump animatedly. Gah, oh sorry you scared me. The nurse giggled and Naruto took the time to check her out. She was only half a foot taller than him and very beautiful. Red hair cascaded down her back, stopping just below her shoulder blades. It was curly like the pretty sensei of Team 8 and it framed her slender face perfectly. She had almond-shaped green eyes with puffy lips and a small button nose, and despite her stature she was very curvaceous, matching the proportions of his sexy jutsu perfectly. She held a chart under her bust before leaning forward slightly and Naruto tried to keep his eyes up. Hello Uzumaki-san, my name is Aiko and we need to prep you for surgery, so please follow me. Naruto stripped down and changed into the hospital gown they provided, then laid on the bed and allowed Aiko to put the IV into his arm before leaving. Now the genin was waiting for the doctor anxiously as he fiddled with the ties on his gown. Naruto was nervous as he sat there. This wasn't something he could face head on and get by on guts. He had no control over what happened, and that scared the boy. Suddenly the door creaked open and the doctor stepped in, followed by a teen several years older than Naruto, and the blonde swallowed his fear, preparing to get it over with. Both had the same silver hair and glasses, but the similarities ended there. The man's face was rounder and he had a friendly smile with cheery reddish-brown eyes. The boy's face was more sharp and angular, and though he too had a smile, it didn't quite reach his charcoal eyes or match the warmth of the elders. The man stopped at the foot of Naruto's bed and grabbed the clipboard hanging there before scanning it. "Hello Naruto-kun, it's good to see you again. In case you didn't remember, my name is Yakushi Endo and this is my adopted son Kabuto, who is here to observe if that's okay with you." Naruto fought down the pang of jealousy after hearing the boy was adopted and nodded. The silver-haired boy gave a slight bow. "Thank you for allowing me to observe, Uzumaki-san." Naruto sheepishly scratched the back of his head, embarrassed that he hated the boy right after meeting him. No, just Naruto is fine, Kabuto." Kabuto gave him a smile and pushed his glasses up his nose, causing light to glint off of them. "Alright then Naruto-kun, let's get started. I'll explain the procedure while I sedate you." The boy injected a syringe into his arm, causing him to go numb before injecting something in the IV, making Naruto feel loopy almost immediately. "My father will slow down the communications between you neurons and eyeball with a seal and then disconnect the eyeball from the nerve endings in the socket when they are done." Kabuto's voice was beginning to fade as Naruto looked at the bright fluorescent lights. "After that he will stimulate the nerve endings, keeping them active while stimulating the receptors of the donor eye. When both are firing at similar rates, he will insert the eye into the socket and encourage your neurons and the receptors to bond. The seal will begin weakening about 6 hours after surgery, after the eyeball and nerves have a good connection, and fade completely 6 to 8 days after the surgery once the connections are stable." The last thing Naruto saw was Kabuto leaning over him with a reassuring smile as he strapped a face mask over Naruto's mouth, but the blonde still felt his confidence fading. "Count backwards from 100 with deep breaths between every number." Naruto could barely hear anything Kabuto said as blackness began overtaking his vision, but Uzumaki Naruto never gave up. 100, 99, 98, 97, 96, 90. The sun shone into Naruto's eye when he opened it, causing him to shut it once more and groan. He was groggy and had trouble moving his body, but managed to reach his hand up and feel the bandages around his eye. "The surgery was a success. Okay Sasuke, I'll honor your sacrifice and fulfill both of our dreams. Thank you for this eye. Team 7 is my family too, and I'll protect them for the both of us." Naruto was broken from his thoughts by the lazy drawl of his sensei. "Hey Naruto, good to see you're up. The surgery was a success and in a week's time you'll have a fully functioning Sharingan." Naruto rubbed his lone eye and focused in on the lanky form of his sensei. "Kakashi-sensei, what are you doing here?" Kakashi walked up to Naruto and smiled at his blonde student over his naughty orange book. "A sensei can't visit one of his cute students if they're in the hospital." Anime tears streamed down the left side of his face as he rubbed his left eye with his free hand. "Or is it you don't like your poor old sensei anymore and don't want him bothering you?" Naruto let out a weak chuckle as he stared at the masked face of his teacher. "No sensei, that's not it. I was wondering why you were here when I was sleeping. I thought you couldn't visit people when they're unconscious. You weren't perving on the nurses, were you?" Kakashi gave a lazy laugh. "That's a good one Naruto. More like they perv on me. That's why I snuck in the window to check on you before visiting hours began and I got molested." Naruto's sweat dropped at his sensei's antics before sitting up straight. "I was serious yesterday, Kaka-sensei. I'll train harder than I ever have in my whole life, so please teach me this month so I can protect my precious people." Kakashi lowered his book, revealing his penetrating stare, which Naruto returned with his icy blue eye. Kakashi's eye scanned Naruto before he abruptly smiled once more. Okay, but I'm not just going to hand over jutsu. You have to work hard and do it the right way. First, we'll improve your basic skill set, and I'll reward you with jutsu if you surpass my expectations. Be at training ground 11 at 8 tomorrow morning, since I'm assuming you'll be released tonight. Now get your rest because the drugs are still in your system, and sleep well tonight because I promise you'll need it. Kakashi stood and left through the window, but Naruto could have swore he heard something about proud fathers. Dismissing it as the drugs, Naruto let his eyes droop and he succumbed to unconsciousness once more. Naruto awoke 2 hours later to pink. Blinking his haze out of his eyes, he got a clear view of his bubble-gum-haired crush. Sakura-chan, you came to visit me. That makes me so happy. It appeared Sakura wasn't paying attention because his voice caused the kunoichi to jump to her feet in surprise. She shook the thoughts from her head and gave Naruto a smile. Of course I did, we're teammates after all. Naruto returned her smile with a tentative one of his own before his eye widened. Sakura-chan, you cut her hair. Sakura turned her head to give the blonde a better look. Do you like it? I grew it out to impress Sasuke because I heard he liked long hair and be like my mother, so I cut it to show my commitment to becoming a serious kunoichi. Maybe once I reach my goal I'll grow it out again. A light blush dusted Naruto's cheeks when Sakura modeled her hair before he burst out laughing. Oh man, that's great, Sakura-chan. I completely forgot about that. I don't know if Sasuke liked long or short hair, but I started that rumor. But Sakura-chan always looked good. Sakura started laughing and her face began to turn red, so all the girls grew their hair out for Sasuke, but it was really for your enjoyment. Naruto started laughing harder. Yeah, I always liked long hair for some reason, that's actually what started my crush on you. Your hair was so pink and beautiful I couldn't stop myself from looking. Naruto clamped his mouth shut after realizing what he said. For some reason he kept saying the first things that came to his mind and his body was tingly and numb at the same time. He blinked a couple times and realized that his eyes felt funny too. Naruto was so embarrassed and wondering why he was feeling strange that he missed Sakura's blush in response. She squirmed, feeling uncomfortable, happy, and embarrassed at the same time. The emotions were swirling inside her and she didn't realize what she was doing until Naruto gasped for breath and she saw her fist in his stomach before guilt overpowered her swirling emotions. Oh my god, I'm so sorry, Naruto. I didn't even know what I was doing and you just had surgery. I'm a terrible friend. Naruto's heart lightened when she said she was his friend and enjoyed watching her worry and fuss over him as she fluffed his pillows. The pain in his stomach was fading as it heated up and he felt happy. I remember one time after me and Tem sparred, I asked him why he didn't date any of the girls after him and he said it was because the girls were all frivolous children that spent more time on their hair than becoming a competent kunoichi. Glad that the subject changed, Sakura filled up Naruto's glass and sat in the chair by his bed and smiled sadly. That sounds like something Sasuke would say. He was always so cold and we all thought he was just being cool. I had no idea how much pain he was in. I'm just glad that we made him a little happier and pulled him out of his loneliness. Naruto matched her sad smile with a content one, much like Sasuke, Team 7 helped pull him out of the darkness of being alone as well. He looked back at the Pinkett to see a confused expression on her face and he realized the last time he smiled like that was at Ichiraku Ramen with Iruka-sensei and Sakura has probably never seen it before. Naruto was a master of smiles. He would smile in defiance of his loneliness to stick it to the villagers, or smile when he was sad or angry to keep people from worrying about him. When he was small he learned that the best defense is a smile and most of them were just that, defenses. Only the Hokage, Iruka, Ayame, Tsuki, and now Sakura saw that smile. Looking at the emerald-eyed beauty, Naruto had to ask, Sakura, we're gonna get super strong together, right? I'll be able to kick everyone's asses and knock them around with awesome jutsu, and you can. What do you wanna do, Sakura-chan? Sakura paused at the abrupt question, surprised that Naruto asked the very subject she was pondering while waiting for him to wake up. Putting on a contemplative expression, her eyebrows furrowed together and she stuck her tongue out of the right side of her mouth while her nose scrunched up cutely. The girl began to think out loud. I don't know, I went to the library to look up the different specializations for a bit before I came here. I don't have enough natural chakra or stamina to be a ninjutsu or taijutsu master. I'd have to pick something like assassination, genjutsu, interrogation, medicine, or rakan. I don't want to work assassinations or interrogate people, and I don't have the natural skills that most shinobi have when they go into rakan. I've really been debating between genjutsu and medical jutsu. I think genjutsu is a useful skill, but specialists are rare because it's really complicated and doesn't leave a lot of time to improve in other areas, so most remain chunin. The one that keeps popping up is medicine though. If I took my training seriously and joined the medical program, then I might have been able to save Sasuke and Nami, and I never want to be helpless like that again, so I'm going to be a medical ninja to take care of my team and friends. Sakura was surprised. She had no idea what she wanted to do, then blurted out she was going to be a medical ninja. Where was all this confidence coming from? Just 5 minutes ago she was sure she was a pathetic kunoichi, too weak and far behind with a minute chakra supply and no real techniques. Her only redeeming quality was her chakra control. Medical ninja, it just sounds right. Sakura almost had to shut her eyes when Naruto smiled. Then I'll become Hokage and you'll be my chief medic. We're going to be so awesome, Konoha isn't going to know what hit it. We'll get strong together, Sakura-chan, TT Ibeo. Sakura felt her lips tugging up at the corners and her cheeks were heating up. His enthusiasm was contagious and it was hard not to get infected by his cheerfulness. Sakura uppercut the air and put her left hand over her right elbow. Cha, we're gonna kick some ass. She was still brandishing her fist as she turned towards Naruto. Besides, somebody has to keep you in line. Somewhere in Ta no Kuni, in a room buried under nearly half a mile of earth, sat a tall skinny man, but it was hard to make out discerning features because the room was bathed in shadow, broken only by the flickering of a few candles. The man's pale white hand rested lazily on the arm of a carved stone throne as his fingers tapped it in boredom. His wrist was covered by a black spandex sleeve, and as it went up his arm it became covered by the man's flowing black hair. The only other thing that was visible was the man's eyes that glowed in the darkness. They were a terrible gold with slit pupils, giving them a predatory gaze, a gaze that would steal hope from even the strongest shinobi. They were the eyes of an apex predator, a beast that would rip you apart at its leisure and enjoy every second of it. Those awful eyes shifted as the sleek black body of a viper slithered in and out of the shadows. Instead of acknowledging the deadly serpent as a threat, a glint of eagerness flashed in those gold orbs, making them even more sinister. The man bent down and lowered his arm, revealing that he wore a yellow robe over the spandex, and the snake coiled up the offered limb before coming to rest on his shoulder with its tongue flitting in and out next to his ear. The man raised a pale hand and the snake lowered its heart-shaped head until its mouth was hanging over it and dislocated its jaw and regurgitated a scroll wider than its body, and the pale man quickly unrolled it and began reading. White snake, your silver mole reaches out from his tunnels after digging into something interesting. The eyes of immortality have closed in permanent sleep. This may change the reunion you planned with old friends, but I took the liberty of sending you a gift to make it more bearable and remember your dream with. Please contact me soon. These tunnels echo with my isolation. The man took note of the seal at the bottom of the paper and smiled, revealing abnormally sharp canines that looked like the fangs of the viper resting on his shoulder. He pierced his thumb on those wicked teeth and swiped it over the symbol, creating a puff of smoke. When it cleared, he was holding 3 vials up to the dim candlelight. One contained a sample of blood, the one next to it held a cube of skin and hair. It was the final one that was the strangest though. It was twice as wide as the other two and held what appeared to be a set of human testicles. The man smiled ominously, revealing his deadly teeth once more, and scribbled something onto the scroll before resealing it and allowing the snake to swallow it. It slithered down his arm and across the floor, leaving the man behind as he laughed diabolically. Hoo, this is an interesting development indeed. I may have to adjust my plans and postpone some actions, but I will wait and play my cards at exactly the right moment. I can bide my time because I have all of it in the world. I am immortal after all. Even though it was 9 in the morning, the sun beat down on training ground 11 and its lone inhabitant, a blonde boy in orange. The field was circular with a 100-meter radius and dotted by small copses of trees at random intervals, but besides these it was a wide open space. Naruto sat with his back against the tree, playing with the knot that held his bandages up, the same wrappings that covered his new Sharingan, Sasuke's final gift to him. The genin was discharged from the hospital around 4 yesterday afternoon and promptly fell asleep as soon as he got back to his apartment. The boy had arrived a half hour ago and expected to wait another half hour for his sensei. Needless to say, he was surprised when his teacher appeared in a puff of smoke 5 minutes after the appointed time. Sorry I'm late, but I had to ask a green monster for a favor, and before I could escape from his clutches I had to beat him in a challenge. Naruto stared at the lazy man while sweat dropping. Leave it to Kakashi to use the most unbelievable excuse when he was only 5 minutes late. Pushing the ridiculous picture created by the lie from his mind, he looked up to the Junin. I'm ready, Kaka-sensei, don't take it easy on me. Giving his student an eye smile, Kakashi reached into his back pouch and pulled out 4 black bands with weird symbols on them. The silver-haired man dripped them in front of Naruto and pulled out Ika Paradise. These are chakra weights. They absorb your chakra and the seals convert it into weight. They're great for increasing your speed and strength, so I want you to put them on and channel chakra into them until I say stop. Naruto listened to his sensei's instructions and put the weights on his ankles and wrists before making the ram sign and channeling chakra into them. He didn't feel much at first and increased the flow of his chakra. It wasn't long until he was struggling to stand, and not long after that he collapsed onto the earth, leaving an indent and getting a mouthful of dust. After he finished coughing, the blonde looked up to see an amused glint in Kakashi's eye. Sorry Naruto, I got to a really juicy part and forgot all about you. Now pick yourself up and start running around the field until I say stop. The blonde took off grumbling, and Kakashi watched him struggle to lift his feet while he jogged at a laughably slow pace, even for a civilian. The masked Junin didn't forget about his charge, but after watching one of the boy's stab wounds heal, Kakashi knew that he had to push the Jinchuriki hard to get the best results, and if the Kyuubi could heal stab wounds, it could probably take care of minor muscle tears and soreness. It appeared the fox already started because Naruto was beginning to adjust to the weight and he kept glancing in Kakashi's direction. Sensei, when can I stop? The blonde got no answer, so he kept running, but something struck the back of his hand. Ow, son of a bitch. Naruto looked around for whatever hit him and his eyes settled on his sensei, whom was juggling 3 rocks with one hand while his nose was buried in his little orange book. Sensing his student's eye on him, Kakashi looked up and I smiled. Well, if you have enough energy to complain, it's time to move on to the next step. You are used to having 2 eyes open at all time, but now you only have one and your vision is cut in half. To get you used to it, I'll randomly throw things at your blind spot until you can anticipate and react to them perfectly. Now keep running. The blonde put on another burst of speed at the enjoyment visible in his sensei's eye and desperately tried to avoid the many projectiles thrown his way. When Kakashi ran out of things to throw, or his amusement faded, he called for a halt and the relieved blonde dropped to the ground. Naruto had gotten used to his weights at the end of the 2-hour dodging session and was able to avoid some projectiles, but he still managed to get hit by more pebbles, a 2-foot-long fish, pine cones, a tree stump, pies, rotten vegetables, random cooking utensils, several spoons, and even a disgusting sink caked with mildew. The genin was black and blue, covered by sweet and sticky pie fillings, the juices of rotten vegetables, and smelled horribly. He did manage to dodge the pile of dog shit though. Naruto saw the amusement in his sensei's eye and vowed to get him back, but before he could make a diabolical plot, Kakashi's voice demanded his attention. Sorry Naruto, I meant I would be throwing random things, not things randomly. Kakashi beamed down at his student as he muttered death threats and reached out to touch his sticky hair, but pulled back thinking better of it. Let's go get some lunch my smelly pupil and we'll do some mental training. Kakashi led Naruto to a tonkatsu restaurant despite the blonde's hesitance. The genin was confident the owner wouldn't serve him, but apparently he was a retired friend of Kakashi's because he greeted Naruto as politely as the lanky man and showed them to a booth without hesitation. Naruto was pleasantly surprised and found his mood getting better until he remembered Kakashi said mental training and was brought back down to earth. Kakashi put down the menu and got Naruto's attention. Okay Naruto, I'm going to tell you the rest of our training schedule. It's almost noon, so after lunch we'll return to the training field and work on your proficiency with Kage Bunshin and different ninja tools. After that I've set it up so you can train with Konoha's foremost expert on taijutsu. The man smirked behind his mask at the thought of Naruto's face after meeting the eccentric expert. When that training is complete, I would like you to practice chakra control on your own before calling it a day. However, that's later on. For right now we're going to work on your mental fortitude and we'll do that every day during lunch. I'll give you varying situations with some basic information like terrain, squad type, strength, and maybe if I feel sorry for you information on your enemies. However, not everything I give you about the enemy will be accurate. After receiving the information I'll give you 5 minutes to form a strategy and you will detail it to me step by step while I try to break it apart or add new variables, and you will tell me how you would adapt to the situation. If your plan sucks, you take too long to respond to my changes, or the changes aren't very good, I'll hit you with this stick. The Junin pulled a stick out of nowhere that looked more like a branch and his eyes shone with eagerness. However, if you react well and come up with good plans, I'll give you some food. Naruto paled and gave Kakashi a shocked look, but that's not fair. I need food so I can do my best when I train. Kakashi gave an evil snicker and answered too cheerfully for the situation. The ninja world is hardly fair Naruto, and there will be times when you'll be expected to perform at a high level when you're not at your best. Besides, the body isn't the only powerful tool of a shinobi, the mind is equally powerful if not more so. You may not be able to overpower everyone you come across, so you'll have to use surprise and misdirection to take them down. Kakashi's tone became more serious and somber. There will be many situations when strength isn't enough Naruto. That's why the Sandame's philosophy is that a ninja must find harmony between body and mind to reach their peak. Kakashi could see traces of confusion in his student's face and decided to use a more recent example as motivation. Use Nami as an example. If you stayed hidden after hitting Haku with that shuriken or sent out shadow clones into the mirror instead of you, then you could have attacked from the outside, distracting the hunter and giving Sasuke an opportunity to escape. Instead, you announced your presence and location before running into a technique you knew nothing about and trapping yourself inside. Information is the lifeblood of shinobi. Sometimes it's better to wait and plan instead of rushing in blindly hoping everything works out. I know there will be times when your conscience pleads with you to run in, but if you run in unprepared and die, who else will save the people in danger? As a shinobi, you should look for every advantage you can get. Naruto's head dropped as Kakashi lectured him. He wanted to yell at his sensei, deny everything he just said, except every word of it was true. The blonde may have worked hard and gotten stronger, but he wasn't training to be a real shinobi. Like most boys his age, Naruto was distracted by destructive jutsu and ignored the other lessons. The Uzumaki's blue eye gained a steely glint when he raised his head. Bring it on, Kakashi-sensei. I'll ace all the simulations you throw at me. I'll show the world not to fuck with Uzumaki Naruto or his friends. Naruto's head was spinning and his stomach continued to grumble as he followed his sensei to the training grounds. The genin barely ate anything, only half his rice and a few small pieces of pork, but he was repeatedly bonked on the head with Kakashi's punishment stick. Apparently the boy's plans were filled with holes. In fact, his plans were one big hole and he couldn't do anything right by Kakashi's standards. He attacked when he should have ran, zigged when he was supposed to zag, or ran when he should have stayed. It was actually eye-opening to the blonde. He had no idea that a squad leader had so much responsibility and realized he had a long way to go before he could lead a team, let alone a village. Naruto was determined to learn and he kept running the situations in his head trying to pick out where he went wrong until the lazy drawl of his sensei broke his train of thought. That wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, Naruto. Your tactics are incredible for a genin, but your strategies were usually flawed, but that will get better with experience. From now on I want you to think like you were planning a prank. I've seen some of your better ones and they were well planned. If you can harness the creativity that you used in those endeavors, I'm sure you'll improve rapidly. Naruto started to tune out his teacher and stared hungrily at the bag of takeout in Kakashi's hands until a book smacked into his face. Sorry Naruto, I thought a ninja would be able to catch that. Anyways, I want you to keep that and read it. It's a book detailing different strategy games. Some days we'll play different games instead of doing simulations. Naruto pocketed the book while grumbling, for now I want you to make 15 clones and take 5 with you, and your objective is to create a proper strategy to take out the designated clone. The remaining 10 will have to remain within a half-mile radius of this spot and no direct combat is allowed. Also, you will have no idea which clone is the target, so get going. Naruto was hiding with his 5 clones and preparing to explain his strategy to his minions when something popped into his head. It looked like the other squad of clones, and one was wearing a bandana tied around its thigh. They were near the small stream that snaked its way through the training field, hiding in the trees surrounding the bandana-wearing clone. Naruto wasn't sure what was happening, but knowing that he had the river to work with gave him some different options, so he changed some points and explained the changes before leading his squad into battle. The ambush went off without a hitch and the clones were taken out quietly. Naruto stood in front of his 3 remaining clones with a smug smirk, and Kakashi walked out of the trees with a proud look in his charcoal eye. Good job Naruto, your plan worked to perfection. You were able to quickly locate your target, create an effective attack, and were able to easily separate and take out the opposing target despite being outnumbered. Naruto blushed and bashfully scratched his cheek. It wasn't that good, sensei. I lost a couple of clones in the attack. Kakashi ruffled the genin's blonde locks. Don't sell yourself short, Naruto. That was a very good strategy, and clones are very fragile constructs. Those would have been minor wounds if they were real people. But if you don't mind me asking, how did you find the clones that fast? Naruto stopped scratching his cheek as he thought back to the weird memory flash. I was actually going to ask you that. I was about to explain my strategy to the clones, but I got a sudden flash and saw the other group of clones near the river. Kakashi deadpanned at Naruto. You're telling me that you've been using the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu for 2 months and just realized at that now? Naruto looked even more confused and Kakashi sighed before continuing. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu was originally invented as a spying jutsu. Anything the clone sees or learns is transferred to the user after it's dispelled. You're the only person I know that can use the technique like you do, and it looks like you may be able to use them to train. Naruto blinked owlishly before a Cheshire grin spread over his face. So I don't have to read the stupid book you gave me. Kakashi slapped Naruto in the back of his head with Ika Ika Paradise before assuming a thinking pose. I don't think it stops there. All of the clones' memories and experiences are transferred. If you had 10 clones do the tree walking exercise for an hour then dispelled them, it would be like you did 10 hours of tree climbing, but I don't think you would get the physical benefits from the exercise. Naruto's jaw dropped in disbelief. You mean I can make as many clones as I want and send them to train? I'll be the Hokage in no time, TT Ibeo. Kakashi was quick to stomp that line of thinking. Don't be stupid. If you use too many clones, it could overload your brain with information, and it could be worse for you because your brain is still forming connections and developing, so don't put too much stress on it. For now, I'll let you make 25 at a time for training until I talk to the Hokage and we agree on a number. But right now you have to go meet your taijutsu tutor, so make 25 clones to leave with me and head to training ground 9. As Naruto walked away, his sensei's voice gained an ominous glint. Oh, and so that doesn't happen again, you'll be doing this exercise against my clones from now on. Naruto shivered and waved over his back as he went towards training ground 9. See you later, Kaka-sensei. Kakashi yelled out for Naruto just as he was disappearing from view. Come back when you're done. The first time we disperse the clones, I want to do it together. The blonde gave a lazy wave over his shoulder showing he heard, and Kakashi had a proud smile under his mask. Maybe I should have trained Naruto when he was younger. It's fun getting payback for all the torture Minato-sensei put me through. After the discovery he made about the Kage Bunshin, Naruto was practically skipping towards training ground 9, confident that he would be able to improve drastically with the new training method. Nothing could break him out of his good mood, until he saw his teacher and training partner. What the hell is that? His sensei was around the same height as Kakashi, although he had way more muscles that were clearly visible through his skin-tight green spandex suit and orange leg warmers. He had a bowl cut that appeared to be coated with so much gel it shone in the light, and the eyebrows, those horrible, bushy, disgusting, wiggling eyebrows. He was so bizarre looking that Naruto thought the flak jacket he wore was fake because nobody that strange could be a Junin. To make matters worse, his training partner was a look-alike of the Green Man sans the vest. Naruto was prepared to sneak away silently before they noticed him when it happened. The strange duo hugged each other in a strangely manly way while shouting the other's name. Lee. Guy-sensei. Lee. Guy-sensei. The two continued their strange ritual and Naruto couldn't pull his eye away, and he would regret it for the rest of his life because he could never erase what happened next from his memory, not even using Yamanaka forbidden techniques. The sun appeared to be setting behind them, even though Naruto could feel the heat on his back, and suddenly the earth around them became sandy as the ocean appeared behind them with waves crashing on the beach. Tallying it as another event on his list of traumatic experiences, Naruto walked out from the trees towards the two. Suddenly they broke off the hug and the larger of the two disappeared before reappearing in front of Naruto. Hello, youthful soul, I am the sublime azure beast of Konoha, Maida Guy. You must be the young leaf that Kakashi sent to me so I could stroke your youthful flame into a raging inferno that will devour everything in its path with your passion. The man finished and entered a nice guy pose as the sun glinted off his teeth, almost blinding the poor blonde. Naruto couldn't decide if he wanted to sweat drop or face fault, so he said nothing and just stared blankly ahead in a catatonic state. This only seemed to set Guy off more though. Truly you radiate the same hypnosis that my eternal rival Kakashi possesses, but my sublime teachings will break through that hip barrier and increase your flames of youth, though they must already be substantial because I wasn't expecting you for another 2 hours. Well, if you're ready then the flames of youth wait for no man. I always say, you can join us on our post-mid-afternoon pre-dinner workout that we do before we begin our afternoon taijutsu. Naruto's brain kickstarted itself somewhere in Guy's sermon of youth. Yeah, whatever you say, super bushy brows. Kakashi-sensei sent me and said I needed to work on my physical abilities in taijutsu. Guy rubbed his thumb under his nose and gave a cocky smile. I see my eternal rival recognizes my prowess in those areas as above his and trusts me to guide his pupil magnificently. The Azure Beast gave Naruto another once-over. I see you are wearing weights, that is most excellent indeed. You are ready to join me and my youthful pupil in our quest to increase our flaming passion with youthful exercise. Lee, come meet your newest comrade who is also in the springtime of his youth. He has come to me upon learning my magnificence in the marvelous art of taijutsu. Faster than Naruto could blink, the mini-me was standing in front of him with an eager grin on his face. Hello, my name is Rock Lee, the beautiful crimson beast of Konoha, and it is a pleasure to have a brother pupil under Guy-sensei's youthful guidance. Manly tears began to stream down Lee's face. Guy-sensei, your flames of youth helped ignite. How rude of me, I never learned your name. For that I will do 1,000 push-ups, and if I cannot do that I'll clean all the garbage up in the streets of Konoha, and if I cannot do that I'll climb up the Hokage monument with both hands and one foot tied behind my back. Lee would have continued, but Guy's raised hand stopped him. Lee, you are in the springtime of your youth, and sometimes the youthful flames ignite and consume you in a fiery passion. Since I failed in my duty as a sensei, I too shall punish myself. I will run to the border of Kase no Kuni and back on my hands. If I cannot do that, I will. Stop it. Naruto was breathing hard after yelling over the eccentric duo, and Guy and Lee turned to him and appeared to remember there was somebody else there. Kaka-sensei said to come here to learn taijutsu, so are you going to teach me or what? Guy smiled with his hands resting on his hips, and when he smiled Naruto was almost blinded once again. Such youthful passion, you shall indeed do well under my guidance. Yes, I shall help your taijutsu reach its peak and your youthful flames will explode. Ha, 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 ha. Naruto could only sweat drop at the man as he continued laughing, as he wondered if all Junin were this crazy, and if the Junin were batshit crazy, how nuts was the old man, who was the strongest ninja in the village. Suddenly Naruto's shoulder dropped as he realized that he wanted to be the Hokage and would undoubtedly be crazy when that happened. Would he even know what was going on at that point, or just be a senile mess? Naruto began crying his own tears of manliness as Lee asked a question. Guy-sensei, what exercises shall we do this youthful day? Guy stopped laughing to answer Lee's question. Well, my youthful pupil, we shall do some light exercising because we have a new student. Naruto cut the man off angrily. I didn't ask you to take it easy for me. I'm going to be Hokage and I can take anything you throw at me. After his tirade, Lee and Guy could no longer contain themselves and were overcome by youth once more. Lee, my new pupil might be able to match your youthfulness someday, and your own flames of youth shall only reach new heights because of it. Yush, Guy-sensei, let's get started. My inner passion is ignited because Naruto also has a splendid dream. I must quench these raging fires with youthful exercise. It seemed the odd pair could no longer stop their explosion of youth as rivers of tears cascaded down their cheeks, and the two beasts of Konoha faced each other and celebrated their youthful manliness by embracing each other. As the two screamed out their names and the beach formed with the sunset and crashing waves formed behind them, Naruto vowed to never use his Sharingan around the two so he didn't go insane. Unfortunately, the naive blonde did not realize it was already too late for that. The two finished their festival of manliness and Guy started listing their exercises. Okay, let's begin. We'll start with 20 laps around Konoha, then do 500 punches with each hand and 500 kicks with each leg. After that we'll do 1,000 of every type of push-up. Now Lee, let's go, explode. Naruto's chin fell with every exercise listed until it hit the ground and he saw his training partners disappear, leaving nothing in their wakes but twin clouds of dust. Naruto lifted his chin and took after them, yelling, "Wait up!" Sakura awoke with a groan when the sunlight streaming through her window shone on her face. After blinking away her haze, the pink it stretched, the memories of the past 2 days came flooding back and she moved with determination. She couldn't talk with her mom and give her the money yesterday, but today would be the day that she took the first steps towards becoming a serious kunoichi who could stand on her own 2 feet. Grabbing the envelope containing her pay, the girl ran downstairs to the kitchen only for her mom to engulf her in a suffocating hug and swing her back and forth. Oh my sweet little baby, I haven't seen you in so long. My poor innocent princess, I heard about Sasuke. I should have never let you be a ninja. I was so worried about you when you were gone. Sakura managed to pry herself out of her mother's tighter than average grip. But mom, I want to be a shinobi. I know that it's dangerous, but I want to protect the village, and as a side bonus I can help you with money. Sakura held out the envelope and Tomo took it and leafed through the contents, making her eyebrows shoot upwards in surprise before handing it back to her daughter. Sakura, I can't accept this. You earned this money and it's yours to spend. And I want to spend it on you. Sakura responded while handing the envelope back. Please mom, I know that it's tough for you because of me. If you didn't have me when you were 15, then you would have finished school and got a good career. Instead you work 2 jobs just to keep a roof over our heads and food on the table. I want you to have the life you deserve, mom, and I can do that by being a shinobi. All this is from my last mission. I still have plenty saved up from the D ranks we've been doing for the past 2 months, so whenever I have extra money I want you to have it. Tomo's eyes watered and she embraced her daughter once again. Don't be silly, Sakura-chan, don't think of yourself as a burden. I made the mistake, but it gave me the best thing that ever happened in my life and I'll never regret it. The older Pinkett put her chin on top of Sakura's head and stroked her now shortened hair. I love you, honey, and I want you to know that you don't have to do this, but I also know that you're as stubborn as me, so I'll take it because I know you won't change your mind. Sakura stayed in the hug, enjoying the cocoon created by her mother's warmth. She may be able to kill a fully grown man dozens of different ways without him knowing, but being in her mother's arms always made Sakura feel safe from all the worries in her life. Sakura gave a response, I love you too, mom, and I'll be okay, so you don't have to worry. Now I have to go to the library, I'll be home for dinner. Sakura let go of her mother and took off out the door, leaving the 28-year-old woman staring at her back. I'm your mother, Sakura-chan, I'll always be worried. Sakura stood in front of the library with a smile on her face as she remembered all the times she spent in here as an academy student. After she proclaimed her love for Sasuke and kick-started her rivalry with Ino, these 4 walls became a safe haven for the girl, a second home. This building was her domain. She could probably walk through and find almost any book by memory alone because of all the time she spent increasing her knowledge in an attempt to make herself stand out to Sasuke. She spent almost all her free time in here instead of training because it would make her less feminine, and she thought Sasuke would think she was a Neanderthal, though in hindsight the physical training would have elevated her in the Uchiha's eyes. Sakura shook off the unnecessary thoughts and stepped into the building, hoping Hitomi Basen, the little old lady who was the librarian as long as Sakura could remember. Instead of the kind old woman, a teenage girl with purple hair was manning the desk reading some magazine. Sakura strode past the girl without a word, confident she could find any book by herself. She bypassed the fiction section and turned at the general information section before coming to the stairs leading up to the specialized knowledge section in the library. She walked up and quickly located the medical section before going down the first row and picking out any books that looked like they would be useful: basic first aid, anatomy, herbology, poisons and antidotes, and general information about medical shinobi and their duties. The Pinkett found a seat and began perusing the books, making sure they were worth reading. It seemed like 10 minutes had passed, but when Sakura looked out the window it was apparent that she was in the library for several hours. She organized the books and looked through some of the things she wrote while skimming the tomes. Medic Nin used chakra to facilitate the production of cells to increase the rate of healing. They could do many other things, but Sakura only skimmed those because even the most basic things were beyond her ability. Also, medics were supposed to conserve as much chakra as possible while fighting in order to save it for healing. That was fine with Sakura though, because she didn't have much chakra to begin with. I'll have to talk to Kaka-sensei about increasing my reserves. Sakura tucked the books she wanted in her backpack and put the other ones on the cart for the librarians before checking out the ones she wanted and heading to the last place she wanted to be in the village. Sakura stood in front of a quaint yellow 2-story house situated in the market district of Konoha with Yamanaka flower shop painted in sky blue between the windows on the first and second stories. Sakura swallowed her fear and opened the door, praying her rival wasn't home. and apparently the gods were on her side because manning the counter was a beautiful blonde woman reading a gardening magazine, though she lowered it as soon as the bell rang, revealing sparkling purple eyes that hinted at her intelligence. "Welcome to Yamanaka Flower Shop." It took a moment, but recognition flashed in Ino's mom's eyes and a warm smile made its way onto her face. "Sakura, what a pleasant surprise. I heard about your teammate. How are you holding up, dear?" Sakura returned the woman's warm smile. She always felt comfortable with Mrs. Yamanaka. She understood that her mother had it hard and would look after a young Sakura for Tomo. Yes, Chika Yamanaka was the closest thing Sakura's mom had to a friend in her hectic life and was like a second mother to Sakura. She would often do the Pinket's hair or tell her stories from her ninja career over homemade cookies, and the concern evident in the woman's eyes touched the girl. "It's hard, but I'm getting better every day." Chika's expression dropped. "I can only imagine. Ino has been so depressed these past few days, and she wasn't even on Sasuke's team." Sakura winced at her rival's name, though Chika didn't notice. Deciding she didn't want to focus on Sasuke anymore, the genin changed the subject. "Actually, Chika-san, I have a question. I've been thinking about specializing in medical jutsu, and I wanted to learn more about poisons so I can fight without using chakra more effectively, but they must be village secrets because all I could find were common ingredients and their side effects." "You're definitely sharp, Sakura. Poison mixes are in an archive that only specialized personnel can access." Sakura's expression fell, but Chika smiled the same way Ino does when she knew something you didn't. "Lucky for you, I'm one of the best apothecaries in Konoha. Come to the flower shop every day for the next week at 12 and I'll give you some non-lethal recipes and teach you how to properly mix poisons and antidotes." Sakura beamed at the blonde. "Thanks, Mrs. Yamanaka. I won't let you down." Chika could only laugh at Sakura's face. "I know you won't, dear, and it's Chika-sensei now, dear." Tenten let out a bored sigh for the 12th time in the past 10 minutes. The weapons store she worked at was filled with ups and downs. Shinobi would stock up and not need weapons for several weeks unless they went on a mission and depleted their supply, and considering the rush last week, these next few promised to be dull. There were dozens of other things she would rather be doing with her time, but she needed the job. Being a Kyuubi orphan, as they were referred to, was a hard lot in life. Many shinobi and civilians lost their lives that night, and the orphan population exploded while the orphan budget imploded because it was needed for security reasons. Orphanages became overpopulated and there weren't enough families to take the new influx in, so Tenten became just another face in the crowd. The brunette was just one of countless babies nobody could identify, and the hospital's records were in shambles, making DNA testing worthless because there would be nothing to compare it to. Some orphans took on new last names the orphanage gave them, but Tenten shed hers as soon as she was able. It felt like she was forsaking her deceased family. The only options open to her was going to school and joining the Job Corps or becoming a shinobi. Tenten heard the stories about what happened to girls in the Job Corps, so there was really only one choice. She joined the academy, but once again found her options limited. With no family or clan to teach her techniques, Tenten didn't learn any ninjutsu, taijutsu, or genjutsu outside of the academy. Her only option was specializing in weapons because those were available to everyone, and eventually she was recognized because of those skills, but it didn't pay the bills. Being a weapon specialist while having to buy groceries, pay rent, and buy materials to patch up your clothes on a genin's salary was next to impossible. She found herself wishing, not for the first time, that Guy entered the team into the Chunin exams last time around. If she was promoted, money would be less of an issue, and as a Chunin she would have access to more ninjutsu, allowing her to branch out from weapons. Even if she didn't get a promotion, genin that participate in the exams are regarded as a cut above the rest and sent on C-rank missions regularly, and in extraordinary circumstances, V-rank ones as well. Tenten was so lost in thought she didn't hear the bell ring, and the genin didn't know there was anyone else in the store until she saw a flash of pink in the corner of her vision. When she turned her head to get a better look, she just scoffed and turned away, knowing that the pink-haired girl wouldn't need her help. She only had to buy the bare minimum required every couple weeks because she probably did not train as hard as she should, and it pissed the aspiring weapons mistress off. Tenten had to work hard and become a serious kunoichi to support herself, while other girls her age could afford to be more worried about boys, clothes, and their hair because they don't know how hard life can be. It was girls like that who give kunoichi a bad name. Despite her less than complimentary thoughts, Tenten gave the girl a sweet smile when she walked up to the counter and politely asked, "Can I help you with anything?" The girl glanced down at the list in her hands briefly before looking up. Yeah, I need 2 boxes of standard issue kunai, and I need 4 boxes of the Senbon with the removable poison cartridge." Tenten reached down and placed the boxes of kunai on the counter while inspecting the girl. She never got more than a box of kunai and shuriken and hadn't bought exploding tags or ninja wire since graduation, but now the pink-haired genin bought as many kunai as she bought since graduating in one day, was asking for Senbon specially designed for poison, and it looked like she cut the hair that made her look like a pretty pony princess doll. Tenten made sure the seals on the box were unbroken and smiled at the girl. "Here are the kunai, and I'll get you the Senbon needles from the back." The weapons mistress felt excitement bubbling in her stomach. It looked like a girl her age might finally be taking this ninja thing seriously, which is quite rare, so rare that Tenten didn't have any girlfriends her own age. Most of the prospective kunoichi in her class drooled over the flavor of the month and only talked about dumb music, clothes, or crappy movies. Tenten didn't bother wasting her time trying to fit in where she wouldn't. Nowadays she only womaned the desk at the store or trained and did missions with her team, but there was only so much time a sane person could be around Guy and Lee without going on a killing spree. Tenten grabbed the boxes of Senbon and walked out front before placing the boxes in front of the pinket and pulling out the demonstration model of the needle and holding it out so the girl could clearly see it and demonstrated the mechanisms. "This is the model that you got. You pop the capsules in like this and pull it out like so. When the tip pierces the target, the capsule gets punctured and the poison leaks out holes near the tip. There are 100 per box, and because I've never seen you throw them before, I'll throw in a half box of regular Senbon." Tenten put the items in a bag before handing it to the girl. "Is that all you need, miss? I'm sorry I never got your name. Mine is Tenten." Sakura was taken back by the abruptness of the question and it took her a moment to grab the bag and respond, "My name is Sakura, it's nice to meet you, Tenten." "And yes, that's all I need, thank you." The brunette punched the numbers into the register. "That will be 100 ryu." After receiving the money, Tenten gave Sakura a real smile. "If you want, I can take you out back to our range and give you some pointers on throwing those. People have told me I have a knack for weapons." Sakura smiled gratefully at the older girl. "Thank you so much, that would be so helpful. I have some scrolls, but they aren't as helpful as a real teacher." Sakura strolled down the street feeling lighter than happier than she had in a while, even before Sasuke's death. After she declared her intention to pursue Sasuke, all the friends the young girl had disappeared and became rivalries. Sakura devoted all her time to pursuing the Uchiha, but part of the obsession was the loneliness Sakura felt when she sat home in her room staring at the blank walls. Now she was taking her first steps towards becoming a competent kunoichi, and on top of that made a new friend in Tenten, and that was the best thing about the day so far. It may only have been training, but it was the first time Sakura spent time with a girl without arguing in a long time, and they scheduled another training session. The Pinkett smiled and looked up at the perfectly clear sky and basked in the beauty of the day until she walked into something. The girl landed on her butt and brought her gaze back down to earth to see bright blonde hair with the bangs hanging over bright blue eyes, and whisker-marked cheeks were stretched in a sheepish smile. Sakura's eye began twitching as she recognized her teammate and gave him a sickly sweet smile. "Naruto. Watch where you're going. What are you thinking? Running into a lady like that? Honestly, how rude." Naruto shivered at the threatening glint in Sakura's green eyes and began shifting his weight from foot to foot looking for an escape route if things got ugly and chuckled nervously before responding, Hey, sorry Sakura-chan, I'm exhausted and I wasn't looking where I was going. Sakura took a closer look at the blonde, you look like shit Naruto. And it was true. His usually bright blonde hair was caked with dirt and his face was bruised badly like he was on the wrong end of a sledgehammer. His clothes were tattered and disheveled, and the Uzumaki's lone blue eye usually filled with energy and life was drooping in fatigue and lacked the customary spark of life. Sakura just stood up while sighing and dusted the dirt from her backside. Don't worry about it Naruto, just watch where you're going next time. Most people aren't as even-tempered as me. Naruto deadpanned before replying, right, well sorry again Sakura-chan, but I have to go meet Kaka-sensei before I can go home so I'll see you later. Sakura watched her teammates back as he got farther and farther away from her and called out before he disappeared, I know you're training Naruto but you better not think of leaving me behind because I'm going to get stronger too. Naruto stopped walking and turned around giving Sakura a foxy grin, of course not Sakura-chan, I'm training so you don't leave me behind. Naruto disappeared around the next building and Sakura felt her lips tugging upwards, idiot. Sakura walked the rest of the way home with that small smile on her face and when she opened the door she saw more food on the table than they usually eat in one day. Her mother poked her head out of the kitchen and greeted Sakura with a smile before disappearing. As the Pinkie took her place at the table she realized life was looking up and she was excited to see what the next day would bring. 1 week later, the sun spilled through a window on the outskirts of Konoha making a pair of lazy eyes open and look at the clock on his bedside table, 11 a.m., no self-respecting person wakes up at this indecent hour. The pile of blankets covering the slothful shinobi shuffled for a moment as the boy rolled over and drifted off to sleep. He thought he had 10 more minutes of peaceful slumbering, but the tyrant of the house grabbed the mess of blankets and dragged him into the bathroom. You don't have time for this Shikamaru, the funeral is in an hour and you have to meet Choji-kun and Ino-chan in 20 minutes. The Nara was thrown from his blanket cocoon into the bathroom and hit his head on the wall quite hard before the draconian overlord he called Mom began nagging him once more, now hurry and take a shower so you can eat before leaving. Shika turned the water on and waited a couple minutes before opening the door to sneak back into his bedroom for more sleep, except his mother's firm hand stopped him before he could exit and shoved him back into the bathroom, slamming the door and locking it from the outside. The genin groaned on the bathroom floor as something soft landed on his face and he lifted it up to see it was his funeral clothes. Shika, if I don't hear you get into that shower in the next 10 seconds I'm coming in and washing you myself. You know I will, remember last time? Shikamaru groaned and lethargically dragged himself into the shower with a small smile on his face, troublesome woman. Spring was coming early to Hai no Kuni this year. The temperature was uncommonly warm and there wasn't a cloud in the sky to stop the sun from beating down on the villagers bustling through the streets. All in all it was a terrible day to have a funeral. The citizens of Konohagakure no Sato were rushing to the sprawling park created from funds donated by the Uchiha to hold the funeral for the last loyal progeny of the clan. Shikamaru wiped the sweat from his brow cursing the lack of good clouds on his way to the academy to meet with his teammates. He took his time, and it was no surprise that both Ino and Choji were waiting for him in the shade of the largest tree in front of the academy wearing traditional funeral outfits. Shikamaru mentally prepared himself for Ino's nagging as he approached and he wasn't disappointed. Geez Shikamaru, can you move any slower? We're almost late. If we end up being late for Sasuke-kun's funeral I'll make your life a living hell. Shikamaru just sighed and mumbled, how would that be any different than any other day of my life? Ino's left eyebrow began to twitch dangerously and Shikamaru would have dodged the upcoming blow if it weren't so much effort. Besides it's not like Ino hit as hard as Sakura. The blow never landed because of their pleasantly plump teammate, Akamichi Choji, restrained the fiery blonde. Easy there, Ino. If you hurt Shikamaru, we really will be late. Ino ripped her arm out of Choji's gentle grasp and huffed, whatever, let's just go. I hope Forehead is there so I can give her a piece of my mind. If a real kunoichi like me was on Sasuke-kun's team, it would have never happened. The kunoichi tried to walk away but found she couldn't move her body. What the hell are you doing, Shikamaru? Let me go. The laziest genin in Konoha released his jutsu and watched as Ino turned around with a scowl marring her face, but he cut her off before she could go on a tirade. You better not say anything like that to Sakura or Naruto. I overheard my dad telling my mom about the mission report and neither of them are at fault. Besides, they probably feel guilty enough and don't need bothersome woman like you bitching and making it worse. Shikamaru walked past Ino and started towards the park. They are our comrades, and as troublesome as it is, we watch out for our comrades. Ino's anger left her and her shoulders sagged as she watched Shikamaru lazily stroll towards the funeral. Alright, let's just hurry up. Uchiwa Park was crowded with villagers that came to pay their last respects to the fallen scion of one of the founding clans of the village. With the death of Uchiha Sasuke, the once great clan and their powerful bloodline was now just an entry in the history books and lost to Konoha forever, though Shikamaru knew that Kakashi had a Sharingan. The Nara stood next to his teammates among the crowd staring up at the stage that held the closed casket. Team 7, the Hokage, several high-ranking shinobi, and a priest performing the ceremony. Shikamaru wished he had some sort of box that would let the Reverend know it was time to wrap it up while zoning out the incredibly long sermon that had dragged on for the better part of an hour already and showed no signs of slowing down. And as the priest's voice faded into the background, snippets of the crowd's conversation made it to his ear. Heard he threw Uchiha-sama in front of the attack knowing it would kill him. He killed poor Sasuke-sama while his back was turned for fun. I heard he slaughtered the enemies then turned on his teammates because his bloodlust wasn't slated. That little monster did it to harvest the Sharingan. We're doomed now that it has that power. Shikamaru's mind was moving a mile a minute as he tried to figure out what they were talking about. They said something about a demon, but Shikamaru knew they weren't talking about Zabuza. The only reason the closet genius knew is because his dad got some of the details in a council meeting and the infamous Demon of the Mist didn't even kill Sasuke. Also they talked about the Sharingan. Something didn't add up to Shikamaru and he was going to find out what was missing. The genin pushed his thoughts to the side and looked back up to the stage, which caused his face to take on an expression of shock and a gasp escaped his lips. He was looking at something he never thought he'd see in his lifetime, Uzumaki Naruto crying. When other kids at the academy or playground got hurt or bullied they would bawl like babies, but never Naruto. He'd shake it off and bounce right back. He'd seen the blonde take hits that would make some more experienced ninja wince. Hell, Naruto was ostracized more than anyone in their class but he never cried or complained even once. Shikamaru felt his stomach knotting in guilt as he remembered how lonely his classmate used to be and how little he did about it, and the boy also knew Naruto would be depressed after one of his few friends died but the lazy shinobi was always quick to dismiss the thought because then he'd have to go visit the blonde even if it wouldn't have taken that much effort. The blonde lost one of his few friends and his so-called other ones didn't even go visit him once. Shikamaru felt like scum. Troublesome. Shika was shaken from his guilt trip as he overheard a conversation in the crowd. Can you believe that thing is crying? He's really crying. Yeah, it's definitely fake. Creatures like him can't shed tears. Demons don't. Demons can't cry. Yeah, that's my point. Weren't you listening to what we're saying? But look at him. That doesn't look fake. He looks so anguished. Don't tell me you're buying that crap. It's all an act, a trick. Yeah, being a trickster is its nature. Remember all the pranks. I don't know. Other kids pull pranks too, and most of theirs are pretty cruel. All of Naruto's were harmless and definitely not as bad as some other ones by imitation pranksters trying to steal his crown. What are you saying? Have you gone mad? No, maybe I'm finally sane. Shikamaru couldn't hear anything else because the priest reached a high point in his sermon and raised his voice trying to increase the emotion. The lazy genin just used an ancient Nara technique to block noise so they could sleep in any situation, as he wondered why they were talking about Naruto like that. That guy also said demon in a conversation that was clearly about Naruto, and apparently Sasuke jumped in front of the genin. Shikamaru then noticed that Naruto was wearing his headband like his sensei, and his eyes widened as he realized that the blonde may have the Sharingan and people were blaming him for Sasuke's death. Shikamaru sighed and looked up at the sky trying to figure out why. His thoughts weren't going anywhere and he started to look down, cursing the lack of clouds, but his head stopped when he saw a lump in the shadow of a tree. The shinobi peered closer only to end up staring at the white mask worn by Anbu operatives. Uchiha Itachi sat in the shadowy canopy of a tree overlooking his little brother's funeral when the hairs on the back of his neck tingled. The S-class missing nin glanced around and saw what looked to be a young Nara staring at him. Itachi looked away and resumed watching the preacher drone on without worry. Nobody would recognize him under his borrowed Anbu gear, and the Akatsuki member was smart enough to hide at the level of an average Anbu operative so the elites scattered throughout the clearing wouldn't suspect anything. It was nowhere near Itachi's best, but a genin shouldn't have spotted him so easily, even by accident. The double agent smiled slightly under his mask, proud that his little brother's generation had such potential. Itachi grew tired of the boorish priest droned on and thought about the week he had since the person he loved most in the world died. Flashback. Itachi was on watch and sat motionless by the campfire on the border of Ta and Hai no Kuni. Kisame had finally fallen asleep and Itachi flared his chakra, letting his raven know it could show itself. The large black bird landed on his outstretched arm and turned its head so the Sharingan that was implanted looked into Itachi's. After finding Shisui's corpse, Itachi removed his best friend's eye and implanted it into his nin bird. He wanted to remove the other one too, but there wasn't enough time, and Kotoamatsukami was far more dangerous than the subtle mind-twisting powers of the other one, despite its long recharge time. The undercover agent's eyes widened as the telepathic link was made and he fought back the tears, knowing there would be time for grief later. His little brother, his light, his hope for the future was gone from this world. All of Itachi's carefully laid and formulated plans hinged on Sasuke. Now that he was gone, they were shattered, and with the illness ravaging his body, the chances of accomplishing his goals all but disappeared. The last surviving Uchiha cursed as his mind raced to salvage anything he could. The most normal Akatsuki member rose and silently packed up, knowing he would have to return to his village. After making sure he had everything, Itachi made preparations to deal with Kisame. His partner was skilled in battle, almost unbeatable because of his sword, but he failed as a ninja. His moniker of the tailless tailed beast was a good description. The blue ninja thought Samahata was an absolute defense against genjutsu, and he was right to an extent, but there were no absolutes in the world of shinobi. Someone that he was fighting would have no chance of putting him under a genjutsu. Samahata had a completely different chakra network than Kisame, so whenever it detected foreign chakra invading its wielder, the sword would isolate it and absorb it, rendering genjutsu useless. Someone Kisame was fighting would never have a chance, but Itachi was his longtime partner and the sword was used to his signature. He could inject trace amounts of chakra into the sword and place it in a genjutsu, which makes Kisame vulnerable to genjutsu, but how do you put a sword in a genjutsu? Samahata was sentient and had some awareness and interaction with the world, faux senses if you will. It was a matter of finding out how those senses worked and altering them. The sword senses and tastes chakra, so Itachi made it remember the most delicious chakras that it devoured, and the sword was lost in its own little world. After making sure it was affecting the weapon, Itachi placed Kisame in a genjutsu that would have them meet in a week in a small town near the Kusaim border. Itachi made good time, and when he arrived at Konoha, the missing nin snuck in through one of the small gaps in the barrier that was used for Black Op missions. It took little effort for Itachi to make his way to the Hokage Tower unseen, and he took up a hidden vantage point and waited for his opportunity. One came only a day later when the two elders and Danzo walked down the street towards the entrance with two Anbu behind them. The former Konoha nin knew they would be rude and waited for a moment of weakness. They were approaching the last turn before the Hokage Tower and Itachi blended into the crowd and moved into position. As they went around the corner he placed the Anbu on the outside in a sleeping genjutsu and simultaneously put the other one in a different one so he wouldn't notice. Itachi donned the mask and cloak before hiding the body with a genjutsu and followed the elders into the building. Itachi sat silently and tuned out the meeting, he was too busy completing his next task. The Uchiha found all the hidden members of the Anbu in the room and placed them in a subtle genjutsu loop where they heard what they thought the elders would say from past experience. He finished the task efficiently and threw the cloak and mask to the side. Homura, Kaharu, and Danzo all appeared to be surprised by his dramatic unveiling, but the Sandaime sat there calmly with a sad smile on his face. Itachi-kun, I was wondering when you would be visiting. I was hoping it would be before the funeral. Itachi cocked an eyebrow in confusion and Sarutobi smiled. Of course I knew you were keeping tabs on Sasuke. Itachi ignored the Hokage's advisors and focused on the venerable old man. Very astute, what gave it away? The Sandaime smiled. There was no hard evidence, but you loved Sasuke like I love Konoha, and if there was a way I would watch over every corner of it. Itachi was amused and a smile cracked his stoic mask for the first time in years, but before he could respond Danzo tensed and interrupted. Why have you come, Itachi, to reveal the truth of the massacre now that Sasuke is dead? Itachi ignored the warhawk and continued to look at the Sandaime, though he did answer the question. I have come for two reasons. The first is to see Sasuke's funeral, but the second is more serious and unpleasant. I have come to warn you that Uchiha Madara is still alive and still looking for revenge. I have joined an organization that is bathed in shadows. We are hunting Jinchuriki for their Biju, though I don't know the real reason. I had a plan to deal with the man, but it fell apart when Sasuke died. I will still do everything in my power to stop him, but heed my warning. Madara covets the Kyuubi more than any other Biju, so prepare Naruto-kun well, for I will come after him, and if he can't defeat me I will kill him to stall Madara's plans. If I fail, a man with the eyes of the sage will be the next. I'd tell you more, but if I gave you too much information it could compromise my position. With his warning delivered, Itachi burst into a flock of ravens that dissolved into nothingness. Flashback end. Itachi knew that the man wasn't really Madara, he just used the name to inspire fear into his enemies, but Itachi decided to play along for the same reasons. Dropping the name of one of the boogeymen of the shinobi world was a great way to make the Hokage and the elders take this situation seriously, especially because they knew him as children. The young Uchiha turned his attention back to the funeral as it neared the end. The priest finally finished his eulogy and the people were lining up to place their flowers on the basket. The Hokage and high-ranking shinobi went first, followed by Kakashi, then Sakura. His target was the next to approach the casket and Itachi eyed him with interest. He used to watch the blonde as a rookie Anbu and another smile made its way onto his face as he thought about how much the boy grew, though he was still rather short. Itachi paid extra attention to the bandages around his left eye covered by his headband. He was proud that his little brother rose above the hatred that cursed the Uchiha clan. Itachi was about to leave and took one last glance at the Yondaime's legacy and gasped. Naruto's was crying even harder than before. Tears still streamed out from his right eye, his left eye was crying tears of blood. Itachi stared at the trails of blood wondering if it was even possible, but after overcoming the shock he realized that his plan was still salvageable and like a true shinobi he would adapt to the situation. Itachi made his way towards the meeting spot and wondered how that man would fare against the combined power of the Uchiha and the Senju. Hiruzen Sarutobi was a worried mess as he frantically rushed to the hospital. The old man wanted to accompany his adopted grandson to the hospital, but his duties as the Hokage dictated he would have to stay until the end of the funeral, but as soon as it was over he took off running. The man remembered the last time he was this worried and moved this fast. It was when his daughter-in-law gave birth to Konohamaru. Suddenly the old man remembered something else about that day and stopped running. Shit, I'm a shinobi, I can just shunshin. Why do I do this every time? The Hokage appeared in front of the hospital in a puff of smoke and walked past the receptionist and focused on Naruto's chakra signature. As he hurried through the hallways, the old man felt his worries hit him full force. What if it was the Kyuubi? The beast hates the Sharingan, and it wouldn't be a surprise if it did everything in its power to keep Naruto from having one. The Shiki Fujin should stop the Biju from carrying out its will, but it was completely different from the previous seal that Mito and Kushina used, and everything was theoretical. What if it was already failing? The Sandaime was about to burst through the door when it slowly opened and the head medic stepped out. The Hokage sucked in a breath and asked the dreaded question, Yakushi-san, what's going on? The silver-haired medic looked at the panicking Hokage and tried to explain, well, the thing is, I have no idea. I've never seen anything like this before. His eye works perfectly. Actually, all the tests say his Sharingan functions better than an actual Uchiha's would, but I don't even know if it's still the Sharingan. It appears to have mutated. It's possible exposure to the Kyuubi's chakra. The Hokage began to get a better idea of what was happening during the medic's explanation and raised a hand to cut him off and prayed to God that it wasn't what he thought it was. I'd like to see Naruto-kun now, Yakushi-san. The medic started to open the door, but the Hokage stopped him, alone. The medic backed off sheepishly. Of course, Hokage-sama. The Hokage entered and closed the door behind him as his stomach tightened with anxiety. Hello Naruto, are you okay? Naruto had his back to the Hokage and it appeared he was inspecting his new eye in a mirror he was holding. The boy didn't look away as he cheerfully responded, yeah. The boy dropped the mirror and started to turn around. Sasuke's eye went all weird, I think it's defective. The Sandaime gasped when he looked into Naruto's eye and gasped. The outside of the pattern in his eye was completely black and the inside was red. 3 ellipses intersected, forming a 6-point star, and on the inside were 2 triangles, one upside down and one regular one, creating another 6-pointed star. The Hokage's worst fears were confirmed and he could only gasp, Mangekyo.